Okay, hi Graeme. Thanks so much for joining me to chat about the 2022 release phase for Power Platform.
Yeah, good to see you, Rachel. Yeah, it's that exciting time of the year when we have to get the reading glasses on and go through all of the new functionality and all of the exciting features that we're going to see on the Power Platform over the next 6 months.
I know it's exciting. So yeah, let's have a wee chat. So what have we got in this release that our users will probably find interesting?
Yeah, lots of stuff as always. Obviously, Microsoft do a biannual release, so a spring and a fall release of functionality. Obviously, we're talking about the fall release, loads of new content, loads of new features and functionalities, but Power Pages is a particular area of interest that I've been looking at. Just as a quick overview, Power Pages is kind of a reimagined version of the Power Apps portals, which we would have used historically, but there's a couple of nice new features. It's a much more intuitive user interface for users to make use of. There's a new template hub. There's a couple of new features, which we're going to talk about today as well. So Power Apps portals is still very much there, but Power Pages is absolutely where the product is going and where we will encourage users and customers to move forwards in the future as well.
That sounds quite cool. So tell us a wee bit about some of the interesting features that are in the Power Pages. Did you mention something about, or was I reading something about Template Hub?
Yeah, Template Hub is fantastic. Previously, we would have had a set of predefined, very basic, very standard templates to work from within Power Apps portals. None of them really fitted a business need, and they were quite basic and didn't really excite the user or encourage them to use it. But Template Hub in Power Pages is, as I say, absolutely fantastic. So we now have different verticals identified. We have different site designs. We have essentially polished, finished articles that we can now take as a template, make certain tweaks to, and then essentially you have a live product straight away.
That sounds fab. Do you think we could maybe see like a wee demo of that, Graeme?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the template hub. Basically what you have is a set of site designs. You have a range of different visuals, a range of different industries as well identified within this. So the first couple that you'll see here, what you can do is you actually preview the template, or you can choose to work on. What's really good about the preview is that you can actually go in and see what the Power Page portal will look like before you actually deploy it or before you actually decide to use it. So this one here came up actually recently with a customer. They had an application process that they wanted to go through. I quickly took a look at this and was able to see that, yes, it's maybe not exactly what they were looking for, but it was a great example of what's possible with this solution. So you have these templated builds of processes, but you also have different site designs. And what you can do with the site design is just look at the one that's maybe closely aligned to your brand, one that you think you like the look of, and essentially then take that as a starting point. You do, of course, have all of the traditional portal types, which we have historically as well. So our community portal, our customer portal, self-serve, employee. So these are the ones we would have used historically. So it's good to see that we're not losing any functionality. We're not losing any templates that we would have used historically as well.
That's actually really cool and dead handy to have. So essentially what companies and organizations can do is they can just take that template and then can they tweak it as well if it's a full template so that it matches like their branding, or if they wanted to have the full template but modify any elements on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the historical ones that you had were very basic, and they had maybe a couple of screens, a couple of components. These ones are real end-to-end processes mapped out. So essentially, if I were an organization who had a registration process or an application process, I could take this and it's going to have the full end-to-end process mapped out for me. All I'll need to do then is go in and tweak the questions or tweak the content and essentially the coloring and the branding to align it to what we would need as an organization or what the customer would need as an organization. So they're much more end-to-end templates as opposed to just a couple of screens as what we had with the previous versions of these.
That's so ideal. Makes things a lot quicker as well, I think. So have we got anything else that's worth mentioning on the release waves?
Yeah, so then into the actual functionality that you get with the solution. So historically, Power Apps portals were very much just about building out pages. You could apply some basic brand and some basic themes to your pages as well. And then you had quite a standard component library. And those components would have been things like, let's add a text box, let's put an image somewhere in the form, let's maybe put in a subgrid of information, display some data in some way. So quite basic components. But with the Design Studio in Power Pages now, we get a list of new components as well as those historical ones which we had. So the one which I've been using mostly in demos and I'm doing some of my initial research has been Multistep Forms. So basically what you're able to do is build out a step-by-step form process. So if you had, say, a paper-based form, or if you had a series of web pages on your website, or essentially any step-by-step process that you have in any shape or form, these could be now built using Multistep Forms in Power Pages.
It's ideal. So I'm guessing that they'd be really good for like registrations or application processes.
Yeah, so similar to what we had in the templates, we just looked at the building permit and the application process. They have a pre-baked multi-step form already in the solution. And essentially then what you have is the ability just to simply select it from the very, as you can see, user intuitive designer here. You select your multi-step form. And then I just quickly assembled one here this morning where I have 3 steps built out. I have a set of predefined fields which I want to ask the user or get the user to fill out as part of step 1. And you can build in some basic logic as well to say, so if the user selects 0 to 10 hours, they get asked a follow-up question about that. If they don't select 0 to 10, then they move on to the question as we would want them to. You have mandatory fields built in here as well, so they don't move to stage 2 without being fully completed on stage 1. So it's just a great way of being able to map out that process. Very intuitive designer, as you can see. To add new steps, you just simply click on the add new step, populate your form, add in your fields, add in your validation, and essentially then you're ready to save and publish and test on your new page.
That's fab. Yeah, no, it definitely makes things look a wee bit more simplified. And then do you think there's anything else that in Power Pages that's really stood out for you?
Yeah, so there's a number of things. There's a nice new integration of Power BI reports, very basic at the moment. All you can really do is simply surface a report within your Power page. So really keen to see where that moves in the next release or in the next few months in terms of the application. But editable grids is something which is now available and accessible to users to use on their page. Something that's been around in Dynamics for quite a while. We've had editable grids in Dynamics and the Power Platform. Not something that historically was easily achieved on a portal or on a website type design for this. So basically, again, as you can see, within the nice intuitive component designer, you have the ability to add in a list. You can then build out your list behind the scenes. So here I'm showing a list of cases on my customer portal. So on that grid, I'll select the columns that I want to add. I'll select the columns that I want to make editable for the user. And what will happen then is once you create that grid, publish it onto your page, the user can then come in and quickly make changes to records across the board. So if we had a list of cases and a user needed to change the status on all 4 cases, rather than having to click into one individually, change the status, come back, click into another one, they could just simply cascade that field change down a single column and do that all within the editable grid. So another great feature that has been around for a while, but has been very tricky to achieve in that portal type scenario and in that web page type scenario historically.
That sounds great. So there's some really good features there that I think are really valuable for people going forward. So yeah, keen to see how that goes. But yeah, thank you so much, Graeme. I think everything we spoke about has been really interesting, and thanks so much for taking the time to share some of your insight. We'll keep everybody updated as these are released as well. So thanks so much.
Yes, no problem. No problem. Good catching up.
Bye.